please, I apologize here. If at any time, at any moment of any day, if you come up with a thought or an idea on something that the Professional Development Committee could offer in the form of a webinar, please make a suggestion to any one of our members. Let us know. We're always looking for new topics, new presenters, new opportunities, and areas of professional development that's relevant to No Rock. So that's my spiel. Thank you all for considering. All right. And meanwhile, Valerie, Thomas, please take it away.
All right. Thank you, Andy. Let me see here. I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's see. Oh, wow, not the way I wanted to start. It says try restarting your browser if the problem continues. I can't share the screen right now.
You want me to go first?
Sure. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Should have tested it beforehand, but yeah, go right ahead, Valerie.
That's how these things go. Okay, give me a moment here. All right, so everybody should be seeing like a screenception situation. Is that the case?
I see your screen, yes.
Okay, great. Let me change to slideshow. All right, so my name's Valerie Moore. I am the Outreach and Engagement Librarian at Prairie State College. I'm also an associate professor. I'm going to be talking about the philosophy of our Library of Things and why we have it, what we have, why we have it. So we're going to be talking about some circulating items, some non-circulating items, and we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of play in higher education. And if you think those two things aren't related, they are, at least in my mind. Basically, how do we get some more playful items into the collection, and then how that helps us to continue serving students. So a library of things is simply any collection of objects that are loaned out, much like libraries loan books. And loaning out objects is a natural extension of what libraries do. We're here to make sure that you don't have to buy everything that you want to consume, that you can enjoy experimenting on things. And what I say when I say objects is kind of anything. Generally, they don't loan out consumables, but all kinds of things. And it's been a little bit more of a thing in public libraries lately, but examples of collections can include, I have a tool library. An example in, I believe it's Brookline, Massachusetts. It makes a ton of sense to loan tools. Tools are something that when people need, they need it, but they might only need it a few times in a decade. And then why pay money for that? And oftentimes tools are well enough made that they can circulate. Musical instruments, the link goes to the Brooklyn Public Library. They have a musical instrument library. Maybe you need a cello. Maybe you played flute in high school and you want to see if you want to get back into it, but you don't necessarily want to buy a flute or rent a flute. So it allows you the freedom to experiment. The Chicago Public Library lends out sewing machines for checkout, and then they also have them in their maker spaces. Unless you are somebody that is sewing a lot, you might not need a sewing machine. If it's a hobby of yours, then obviously buy that sewing machine. But if it's something you're using 4 times in a decade, it might make a lot more sense to check it out. And I understand one of the widest circulating items in a lot of public libraries are outdoor projectors. So that's kind of what a library of things is, as long as the objects can be stowed and then be lent out or used in the within the space of the library. Any of these things can be a library of things. And I know that as librarians, you guys know that libraries are much more than books, but the general public may not know. So I think that there is a lot of room for opportunity and growth in college libraries, specifically community college libraries, to have a library of things. So I do want to give you a little bit of background on Prairie State College. We say Prairie PSC for short because it's a little bit of a mouthful as to how our things fits for our collection. So we're a 2-year community college. We are located in Chicago's south suburbs, one called Chicago Heights, but we of course serve multiple suburbs in the surrounding area, going all the way out into the south exurbs and even the countryside. And our programs are what you would expect from the community college environment. We have a lot of 2-year programs, certificate programs, and we also have students that complete with us and students that transfer out. Right now, we have a little bit more than 6,000 students. Those numbers are individual students. That's not an overlap between the last 3 semesters, including this one. And most of our students do work in some capacity. I think my numbers were something like 34% work part-time and 36% work full-time. So our students are managing a lot of our students are parents too. We have a wonderful colleague, her name's Annette Dolph, and she does data crunching and does a lot of storytelling with data. So one of the things that she did was put together a profile of a typical credit student and a typical non-credit student. So our credit students do tend to be more of your traditional college age, little bit, they definitely skew younger. They are not first generation students, and they're definitely working while going to school part-time. They tend to be local, oftentimes still living in the family home, but not always. And they've been in Prairie State for less than 2 years. They are hoping to transfer out and continue elsewhere. They're not terribly involved in campus activities because they're spread pretty thin. We also have a typical non-credit student. These students do tend to be a little bit older, at least by college standards. You could probably notice most of our students are women. Now, these students are first generation and they're funding their own education, unlike the credit students who tend to be funded by financial aid. So you have a little bit of an idea of our student body. They are attracted to a community college because they have a lot of things competing for their interest and time in their lives. School is one of the things that they are doing. It is not the only thing that they are doing. So before I got in the mix, we already had a collection of things. We had a library of things. We didn't call it as such, but it was absolutely a library of things. The first 4 things on the list are circulating items. Our largest majors are in the health sciences. We have a massive nursing student group cohort, and we have a large group of dental hygiene students. And they really need to use our anatomical models. In fact, since they're dedicated to those students, we have a nursing study room set aside just for nursing students. Right now they live in there. We are debating putting them on some open shelving so that students outside of nursing students can access them, so that they're out in the open and people can use them, kind of that library philosophy of not being gatekeepers to our own collection. We just haven't done that yet. The calculators are also circulating. We don't technically own them. They were a gift from our math department. But if you have had to buy a graphing calculator or buy one for your own kid, you know they're very expensive. And unless you're an engineering or math student, it doesn't necessarily make sense to buy one for one class you're going to take once. So we have those for use in the library and then for longer checkout. One of our biggest lending programs is our laptop program. We got CARES funding basically this time of year in 2020 because everybody was sent home and a lot of our students didn't have the devices that they needed for learning. So we used CARES funding and we bought a ton of laptops. I probably should have looked at them, but I did not. And they've been lent out. And in some ways that program has been a victim of its own success because the laptops, now that they're 5 years old, a lot of them have walked. They were so needed by the students, they weren't returned. So a lot of them got worn out. That can happen. And a lot of them are very much still in use. Usually by week 2 of the semester, the remaining laptops are all checked out and they're checked out for the full semester. We do have a DVD player to lend out, sorry. We also have non-circulating items that have been really popular. Board games, puzzles, coloring books. We have some crafts. And then we have the novelty chess set, which is pretty much constantly in use. Here we have our mascot, Parker, playing with it. But we'll have students walk by and move one piece. We have a group of maybe 7 or 8 students who are regularly there playing. And we even did a lunch and learn on chess because we have some hardcore fans and people that really know how to play. Okay, so we have this successful library of things already in motion. We have circulating items, we have non-circulating items that seem to be used and enjoyed. And then 2 things happened to me in the meantime. I kind of had an inspiration to do more from 2 places. One is the professor of Playposium. It's a 1-day symposium, and Professors at Play is a working group dedicated to bringing play to higher education. And then they put on this symposium. They're fantastic. I've linked to the Playposium, their website, and then you can watch the one I saw in 2020. It's on YouTube. I'll share the slides at the end. But I got to hear multiple professors, even in disciplines that, this is me showing my bias, I would have thought would be kind of buttoned up and maybe kind of allergic to play, doing really exciting things in their classroom. I saw a business professor and a law professor doing really playful, whimsical things in their classroom, and it was really engaging and fun to watch. And then in the meantime, I attended ILA in 2023 because I presented with a colleague, and I got to see a collection talk from, I believe it was the Normal Public Library in Orland Park. I wanted to include the link to their presentation, but it was dead. And they discussed from nuts to bolts how they started and completed their libraries of things and the challenges they had. Storage was a big challenge because books, with the exception of larger items, are kind of all the same size-ish. But a guitar is a very different size and shape from a sewing machine, from a microscope. And some of these things had parts of them that needed to be replaced, or like guitars need to be tuned. So they talked through all the challenges and how they met those. So it got me thinking, okay, we have students that are not true for each and every individual student, but as a group are spread really thin. And as a group, maybe don't have as much time for kind of play as students at 4-year institutions do. Not true for everybody, but as a group, probably true. And how can we leverage this collection that we already have with puzzles and board games and bring more play into the library, and then eventually bring more play into the sessions that I teach, teaching one later. So I started researching play. Play does a lot of things really well in the classroom, and that is, I have 2 pictures of me playing as a little kid, because it's kind of well known that little kids learn through play. Most people know that. They're learning all kinds of different things. Adults also learn through play. It helps with relational safety. It creates a warm classroom environment. The article I've cited is from Lisa Forbes. She's one of the brainchild. Anyway, she helped invent Professors at Play. Play has a lot of carrots and not quite as many sticks. It has a natural reward cycle that makes you want to keep going. I should have cited this, but a good friend of mine did research on the carrots and sticks in video games, which is what makes them so habit forming and also so rewarding, because they know exactly where to give you lots and lots of carrots and the occasional stick. So it does a lot to create a warm, inviting classroom. It removes a lot of barriers to learning. And then this article was one that I thought was particularly useful for our students, because it was using Lego's series play methodology, which is a curriculum using Legos, as you could have gathered, to help students in the UK, nursing students specifically who are from Nigeria, to help bond the cohort together and help them adapt to a little bit different environment. And so something play does really well is it helps students adapt to new situations, like, you know, college. College is a lot of new stuff. In some ways it has similarity to high school, but in many ways it's very different. And one thing I've noticed just anecdotally in the 5+ years I've been at Prairie State is that our students are a little scared of us, I think. They definitely have library anxiety. Some of them, not all, are a little scared of their professors. And at first I thought, well, this is silly. I'm 5'3". Nobody's scared of me. But I do have a lot more power and authority than they do. I'm not any smarter or more capable, but I am sitting on one end of the classroom and they're at the other, and that can be really intimidating. And play removes a lot of power imbalances, both between professor and student, but also between student and student, because we're at a community college. And so, yes, we have lots of students that are 17 to 23, 24, but we also have students in their 40s. We have students who are parents. We have students who have just finished their stint in the military. So you have people with all of these different life experiences, all learning in the same classroom, and it removes a lot of those power imbalances between individual students. And it does that very, very well. So I was thinking, all right, we already have the games and puzzles. Those have gone off so well. They're getting a ton of use. What about adding something else that we could just have out on our study tables, like Legos? And I talked with my dean, who said he thought it would be a great idea. Yes. Okay. So Legos came to mind for a few reasons. One is they had already been studied in higher ed. I just showed you that, and worked really well. And we have this huge cohort of nursing students. We have some students that are immigrants and in a different environment. So why not use this to kind of break down those boundaries? They're really made well to last. If you've had the misfortune of stepping on a Lego, you know they're built to last because it'll cut open your foot before it breaks. And anything in a library needs to be built to last. It needs to be built to merely get dusty and grimy, not to fall apart. They're really good for spatial learning. A lot of students need something to fiddle with or fidget with so that they can focus. Legos are perfect for that. And this is my own personal bias, but they're just fun. I hear the little plastic clinky clink, it makes me happy. So obviously there's a little bit of me bringing my own ideas of what is a good time into this. So I decided, okay, let's get some Legos. So the Prairie State College Library has a pretty good collection development budget. We do not have a great anything else budget. So it's like, all right, if we're gonna get Legos, we gotta get it for free. Rails has, it's kind of like Craigslist for libraries. You can ask for free things. And I know that a lot of public libraries will do Lego programs and then they'll cycle them out. So I asked if any libraries had some they'd be willing to donate, and I would pick them up, no big deal. And I got like 3 bites pretty quickly. I wish I could remember the names of the public libraries. If you're on here, thank you. I'm sorry I forgot your names because I'm a little nervous. But we got them pretty quickly, and we got them to the library and they were immediately used. I got them about a year ago, so it was kind of this time of year where the semester is really, the end is nigh, tension is in the air, and students are a little on edge. And you could see students both taking study breaks to play and build little things, and also you could see that students were building while reading and studying and things like that. I wanted to incorporate these into some of our programming and also program some of our play, because as outreach librarian, programs are one of the things that I do. At the end of last spring semester, so about a year ago, we always have an event called Finals Fest. It's the end of the semester celebration / stress reliever. We have a couple of students who work for us, and they were crafty and they wanted to do a craft event. And I was like, great, I can make that happen. And we also had the Legos out too. The attendance wasn't amazing, but I think we had about 13 students. And the students that were there seemed to really enjoy themselves. I am not a crafty person, so I played with the Legos with a couple other people while they knitted and crocheted. And then the end of the fall semester, we did a game night. We had people bring in board games. We had some of our own board games. We had a video game system going at the same time. And we had the Legos, and we had like 35 or 36 students come for that. So much better attendance. And it was a pleasant surprise too, because it was so well attended after the hours when a big chunk of students are there. So that was clearly a hit. And it was nice just to see people enjoying each other and to see people being playful and bonding with one another. And it was really nice to see, because we're a campus that really clears out at 5 o'clock. It's kind of, we have night classes, but sometimes you can see tumbleways rolling through. Okay, so we have these objects, but they're not circulating. So how do we measure success or failure? Because in education, you gotta measure stuff. So one way was just by a simple count. We already count how many people are in the library. I believe it's every 2 hours on the half hour starting at 8:30. It's just a little lap counter, and our circulation staff counts the number at the library. So it's like, all right, we already have the infrastructure for that in place. Our reference librarians can see the students at the game tables from where they are pretty easily. They could also count it. And I think we've had a little under 40 so far this semester. So there's a couple caveats for that. One is, if you take the count very literally, you're counting how many people are at the table right at that time. At least that's the way I do it, which may or may not be right. So you're getting one spot in time that may not necessarily be the most accurate. And my downfall when I'm at the reference desk is stuff only happens when I get up to get a glass of water. So I would miss those students, right? The other is, we recently got new furniture, yay, which is wonderful. Our old furniture was very, very beaten up. It served its purpose well, but we moved some stuff around and the games are not in quite the same location and the students seem a little shy. So we haven't decided if we're going to move the games back to where they were before, or if we're going to advertise them, or just wait and see how things shake out. So yes, we can take account, but it has its limitations and we're still figuring stuff out. Pictures. I post a ton of pictures onto our social media feed. Our Facebook account is mostly followed by the staff and faculty at Prairie State College, so I use it to advertise for them. Instagram is used by a little bit of everybody. We have lots of pictures of people doing stuff with the games. It's definitely evidence, but again, it's kind of a point in time. I'm kind of saying by vibe as a little bit of a joke, but we do have a student satisfaction index survey that comes out. I want to say it's every other year. And our data cruncher sent me those two because I couldn't find them and was too impatient to look. And the students as a whole rate the library highly. 75% of students surveyed say that the library, they're very satisfied or satisfied with us. But that's the library as a whole. It's not just the games. We also do Blackboard questions. We could certainly survey them that way. We have an old school Blackboard and we write questions on it and then students answer. So we could also measure it through that means, not like the most scientific, but you know, we can kind of check in. All right, so lessons learned. We probably should have surveyed the students before expanding our collections. Looking back, that was the obvious thing to do. I didn't at the time because our students, outside of the Blackboard questions, which get a lot of traction, we don't get, our students don't really answer surveys when we put out little tally cards or a QR code to a Google form. Even when there's a treat or junk food or a granola bar involved, they don't necessarily do that, but I probably should have done it as a Blackboard question or bugged one of the student groups I have an in with. We have a little bit of storage for the Legos, but not a lot. Our storage needs aren't the same as, say, a library lending out a big box of Legos. By the way, we did not catalog the Legos. We don't catalog any of the non-circulating things. I spoke with our the person who does like the cataloging. He basically said to do it right, you'd have to catalog every piece, and that would be sadistic. So I didn't want to ask him to do that. But we needed better storage for the Legos. We needed something that kind of lent to what the students were doing. For us, it didn't matter if the pieces were all mixed up and together because they're being used by young adults, but we needed something a little bit more robust, a little bit easier to move. And we didn't quite think that through because I definitely took a ready, fire, aim on this program because I think I got excited. And like I said, with the other games and the puzzles, we're still kind of trying to figure out where do things go with this new furniture and new layout. So we also kind of, what does this all mean? Because we're serving this very particular student population. Is this meeting their needs? We do know that we're something of a hub on campus. That's true, I'm sure, for everybody here. I personally think that libraries are the hub. They're the heart of the campus. They're a third space. How do these objects make us a really welcoming space, but how do they make us a desirable third space for students to come and hang out? And what does it mean when we change the furniture and we've had construction and things like that? And for parts of this semester, students were thrown out of the library. Will these things entice them to come back? And then something I'm still figuring out is, how do I use play in my own one-shot instructional sessions? How do I make them more playful, more engaging? How do I kind of scratch that itch for our students, but also get them to talk and participate? And then how do we continue supporting them? So this is one of our Blackboard questions. It says, what comes to mind when you think of our library? And it is all positive stuff. A safe space that made me feel good, peaceful, nice people, study time. Knowledge is power. Dinner, I like that one. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Thomas. And I'm going to stop sharing. All right, I assume my screen, you can't see my screen anymore. Cool.
Okay, hi everybody. Can everybody see my screen? Okay,
Yes.
great, yes, okay. All right, well, thanks, Valerie. That was a tough act to follow. So I was going to discuss kind of the uncommon collections, or library of things as we call them at Morton College, at the Morton College Library. So I was going to start off the presentation, but I had a little bit of a problem. So I was going to, do an icebreaker to get everybody kind of engaged in the presentation. And if you could put in the chat, what uncommon collections do you have at your library? And hopefully, time pending, at the end of the presentation, we'll have a chance to discuss some more. So if feel free to share your library of things collections if you have some. As you see, we're being greeted by our muscle man, as we call him, our nickname. He is circulated only to physical therapy students from the physical therapy department. And he's getting quite a lot of use lately as the semester winds down. And right behind him is a globe, which is not related to him, but it is kind of an example of things that we have that do not circulate. So we have kind of both the library of things that circulate and things that do not. Okay, thanks for sharing, everybody who's put in their things in the chat. Hopefully we'll get, like I said, we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. So briefly, where am I from? I'm from the Morton College Library. We're located out in Cicero, Illinois. It's a near west suburb of Chicago. We're the second oldest community college in Illinois. Just last year, we celebrated our 100-year anniversary. Just a little bit of our demographics. You'll see we have about 3,500 credit-seeking students, 455 non-credit-seeking students. We are primarily a Hispanic or a minority-serving institution, and our population is primarily Hispanic, with 82% of our students. Okay, so really briefly, what I'll go over in my presentation today is what we own, how to promote the collection to your community, the lending policies that govern use of the collection, how it's been going so far, where we can expand the collection for future growth, and what else is out there? What are other people doing, and can we borrow some of their ideas? So when deciding to put this together, and I'd say this was about maybe 6, 7 years ago when we first really got on board with building a library of things. We obviously we and I think as Valerie mentioned before, we didn't do anything formal as far as a survey, or we just observed student questions and behaviors. What were they coming to us asking for? What were we seeing them using out on the tables? If they were coming to us asking for supplies, we'd make a note of it and say, hey, this is something that we could use. We reached out to faculty. Our dean at the time had a good relationship with people from like music, the arts department. And because the arts department is primarily, involving doing things with your hands, crafts and so on, that was a good place to start building our collection. We also brainstormed. I don't have to tell a room full of librarians that there's great ways, great ideas out there. If you're going to conferences, if you're keeping up with the library literature, if you're on listservs, if you're serving on committees, there's great ways of getting in touch with your colleagues and picking their brains for things that they're doing at their institutions. And of course, last but not least is the budget. What can you afford, right? It's important, especially now as we don't know where the economy is headed with all this talk of tariffs. Like, what can we afford? So moving on, you have to promote. You have to let people know what's out there. We put together a nice little trifold you'll see on your screen here. These were placed on tables. These were placed in like a revolving book shelf that we have where we put other flyers promoting our collections. And, this just gets the word out there, lets people know what we've got. And of course, you want to have images, and you'll see we've got like a skeleton model. We've got blood pressure cuffs. And again, this is mostly stuff that is used for our health sciences disciplines, nursing and physical therapy in our case. Orientation packets, that's important because all faculty members get one at the beginning of the semester. So in August, when they're starting to trickle back into campus, we have orientation packets, and we include stuff like this so they know what they've got to work with. Social media, as Valerie mentioned, we have a Facebook, we have an Instagram account, just get it out there. And even though we haven't done this, if it's good I just thought of maybe asking a student, how do they use the Library of Collections, and maybe having them record a video. And hopefully if they do it well and it could go viral, then, more students will find out about it. Of course, LibGuides, we have links to our catalog. It's kind of a live action. They get an idea of what's currently available, if it's being used at present versus if it's on the shelf. So we let them know. We have links to that, to our library of things and our LibGuides. And of course, with the instruction sessions, you've got a captive audience, right? You might be doing an instruction session on information literacy, how to cite your papers, how to use our databases. But at the very beginning, I always include a brief library overview where I kind of shamelessly plug what we've got, and I post some images of our library of things, and hopefully that'll spark some interest in our users. So the kind of boring part, the not too flashy part of Library of Things, is you have to come up with policies that govern their use. I'm not going to go over all these points, but a valid idea is required to obtain materials. For us, things are first come, first serve, so people can't put things on hold. Some things leave the library while other things do not leave the library. And we do that because obviously with like a large, fragile skeleton model, we want to keep that on the premises. So we don't want people taking it out, trying to fit it into, reeling it out to the parking lot, trying to fit a whole skeleton model into their car to take home. Chances are things are going to get damaged. So, things like that, we kind of, and if things are in demand, we try to keep it also as library use only in a limited number of hours. We play it by ear. We see what users are expecting to, or what they're using it for, how long they're keeping on to things, what they're asking to use it, how long they're asking to use things for. What we haven't really implemented, and I think it's a good point because we don't want to come off as too punitive, is even though we kind of, in our policies, we say, okay, you have to bring this back because it's a high demand item. Maybe we'll fine you $1 an hour or what have you. We have been lucky so far, and people are pretty good in returning things on time. We haven't had to really deal with people not returning things on time, even though we have our policies at $1 an hour or $1 a day, which again is very, it's not really, and we don't charge for overdue books and all that. Like, I think that we're taking the hint from what a lot of other libraries are doing, but because of things that are more expensive and more we have less of, we try to kind of put a policy in there that kind of makes an incentive for people to try and bring them back, although we know that fines and fees are not always the best incentive. So yeah, we have this one day which people can take out. Again, if it's kind of it's not too expensive, if it's not that much in demand, we'll let them take it out of the library. But if it is those things, we will kind of stick with maybe a more restrictive policy. Speaking of restrictive policies, our most expensive item, not counting, well, we don't really circulate laptops. I'll get to that in a future slide. But we do have digital cameras. And we did this because somebody from the arts department is offering a digital photography class. And when we first started, it was like, nobody had these digital cameras. And this was like, I think in 2019, right before the pandemic, where we had I think there were around 10 students in the class. We had 10 cameras. So they all needed it. So that was, at the time, we had a very restrictive policy. You could only borrow this for 2 days. If you wanted to bring it back, you have to wait 24 hours to check it out to see if if anybody else wanted to use it. But a funny thing happened with COVID once it hit, and the class wasn't being offered for years. We opened it up. We said, why have this expensive piece of equipment, these expensive pieces of equipment, and just having them collect dust? So we did open it up, and then we became more flexible with due dates. People would borrow it for a week. If they wanted to use it again, they'd have to bring in all the pieces, see that they were in good working condition, and we check it out to them for another week. And also at the time, anybody who wanted to use these had to sign a liability form because, just to indicate that they were responsible if something happened. We had the fines and fees at $750 to cover repair and replacement costs. And, luckily so far, nothing has, everything that is circulated has come back. I think there was one time where somebody didn't return one of those, you see the small USB cable. But, all we did was get back to them. We sent them an email saying, hey, we noticed you didn't bring back this piece. You still have it? And they said, yeah. And then they brought it back. So that was, that worked out well. This semester, we were surprised when the same instructor from 5-6 years ago came back and saying, hey, we want to offer this class again. Do you still have these cameras? I'm like, yeah, you know more than I do. Are these still up to date? Are they, have they been supplanted by something more modern? Because obviously technology, a lot of it tends to get obsolete. But she's like, we could get another semester out of these. What was funny was that now compared to 6 years ago, it's like a lot of students in that class, I think there were about 10 students, I think 8 of them had their own digital cameras. So I don't know if they've gotten more, I'm not a big digital camera guy. They've probably gotten cheaper, more students can afford them. So only 2 students really needed to use the ones in our collection. But at the same time, even though we're not publicizing this to the rest of the community, I think word of mouth, maybe one of the instructors mentioned to another instructor. So we actually had an instructor from another department, I think in the athletics, come in and wanted to use one of these. So we're like, hey, we have a lot of these laying around. So yeah, definitely go for it. We'll check it out to you. But yes, we also made them sign a form. So we try to be very fair and equitable in how we treat both students and staff and faculty. So I was, I get these Google alerts, for what's going on, especially regarding circulation stuff. And just not too long ago, I think a few weeks ago, I got an email. I think Point Park University Campus Library, I think they're out east, maybe Pennsylvania, I think. And I was just, taking a look at what they've got. And again, trying to think, can we use any of this based on the curriculum? What are our teachers wanting our students to learn? What is covered in their syllabi? And I just thought I'd share what was out there. In this case, DVD players. We do have a DVD collection still. Not everything is streaming. Again, touching on what Valerie covered, play. There's Dungeons and Dragons kits. Some really, for me, was kind of out there collections like clothing irons, Yeti microphones, therapy lamps. That would be something we might want to consider around midterms or at finals to put people at ease. That's something I haven't looked at prices. I'm just, taking what I saw and putting it in there. And, like something called a More Dude game. It's another game where you say dude. So, I thought that was interesting and something that, just to touch base on what what Valerie covered. We had a bigger space. And some of you who have maybe sat in on some of my presentations in the past know about this, but we've lost a significant portion of our library space. Back when we had like a cafe, we would have games, and these would not be cataloged, these would not be circulated, but we had the space, and it was like a system of honor. Puzzles. This might be 1,000-piece puzzles. We're not going to catalog it. We're not going to keep on track of it. But if you want to play, if it helps relieve stress, you need some place to clear your mind. We had that space. Come and play. But we've lost the space, and so far we've lost our ability to circulate games. Some of the challenges we face. The fines and fees policies, I kind of covered that. We have some issue right now, and I'm going to try to check with our Carly colleagues about not being able to attach fines to when something goes into the loss status. If anybody has something they could help in that regards, please contact me, because it's, we're not promoting or actually we're not letting people know that we're not really actively going for fines and fees. We kind of say there is a policy, but at the same time we're having trouble collecting cash, and our policies in our ALMA are kind of a challenge. Other challenges are tech services. As many of you, if you're involved with tech services, you know that it's not the easiest thing to catalog. It might be a basic record, but there's a lot of pieces to account for. And on the screen here, you'll see one of the things that we noticed. We had our nursing students; they were always working on, and art students noticing. We were noticing they were always working on like cardboard. They were putting together presentations. They were always coming to us asking for supplies. Finally, we're like, let's gather everything, put it in a plastic box, and circulate it as one unit. But at the same time, this one unit has 17 pieces, like 10 markers, 7 colored pencils, as you'll see, a glue stick, scissors. So, sometimes these are returned to us and they're not all there. Do we want to be punitive? Do we want to hold people that responsible for, not returning a small glue stick or sharpener? Sometimes it's really feasible to just get a replacement piece. We might have some in our back stock. And other times we just might want to ask them, hey, we know who you are. You went out with us. Do you still have some of this stuff? And they're like, oh, I accidentally put it in my backpack. Here you go. I'll bring it back to you. The condition of items. As you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen, we used to have like a small skeleton model that circulated, but as the years go by, our little skeleton lost use of his shoulder. The top of that skull is the top of that skeleton. You'll see that's the upside down skull. It's loose, so that came apart. If you have somebody with a skill set who could repair things and put things together, that's great. If not, it's time you could see if you could replace, get some pieces, or just buy a new model. So yeah, the condition is also a challenge. We have a small space. We don't have that much display space. The display space we do have, the small space we like to showcase our books. Again, with the library of things, you don't want things to go missing. So we have our stuff behind the circulation desk. We did get some new cabinets, but again, it's not transparent. Even though the cabinets are out on the floor, maybe we could put I'm just thinking now, maybe we could put like a little picture of what we've got behind these desks to promote the collection, saying, hey, this is where our stuff is located or situated. You want to use this? Well, come with your ID to the circ desk and we'll be happy to get this stuff out for you. And of course, there's lack of usage. Sometimes we go in with things thinking that this is, the greatest thing since what's the terminology, like sliced bread, right? And then we noticed them, despite our promotions, they were not being used. Lack of usage. We had high hopes for webcams, and I don't know, they're just sitting there. I think a lot of people get laptops now and have integrated webcams. So our webcams we have 10 of them. They're not being used. So that's you have to take risks, right? Sometimes things will work and sometimes things will not. But then you have to decide, what do you want to do with them? Recycle them, lend them to somebody else. Decisions like I titled one slide earlier. Briefly, we're thinking what else is out there. We wanted to spearhead the office pod because we noticed a lot of students, our group rooms are kind of like, they're not soundproof. So sound leaks in and out. And of course, students working solo want to use our pod or our group study rooms for Zoom calls, job interviews. I don't know. It hasn't gone anywhere. I think we heard an office pod would cost around $30,000. If we're and we don't have a lot of space, of course these are portable, but we might spearhead something with other departments if they're interested, like career services, because this is something that we see there's a need for. Portable chargers. We have a charging station and the cords have become frayed. We either might get a new charging station or we might start circulating portable chargers. We have hotspots and calculators, which are our most popular library of things items, so we might add to those. Laptops, I think Valerie had mentioned, in 2020, we got so much money that our IT department got so much laptops that they were like giving them out to students. And we had stopped at that point. Other factors with their lack of space, we didn't circulate laptops. And now, because they've run out of laptops, this is something we might think of returning to, because we see that there's a demand and there's not necessarily a supply coming from where it once was. Some of the new things we've added, the physical therapy department are great. They reached out to us saying, hey, we wanted to add some stuff like tape measures, elastic bandage. So we're putting together a kit to circulate to students in that department. By the way, they need to have IDs that show that they're in the physical therapy department so we could circulate things to them. And the art department has shown interest. They've come to us saying maybe they would like to circulate paintbrushes, charcoal sticks. So that's something we will definitely think about in terms of expanding our collection. Really briefly, I know I'm kind of running out of time and I wanted to open things up for discussion. This is a cool map I came across, and it's probably outdated now because it's from 8 years ago, but it's from the American Libraries magazine. just stuff that is circulating around different libraries around the country. Most of these are from public libraries, but I know we're more academic here in Little Rock. I did see that there's a let's see, I think Yale Library is circulating umbrellas. Maybe that's something I could steal from them. A lot of being in part of this business is a lot of like borrowing, or I said steal, but the nicer thing to say is borrowing. Montana State University, they got floppy drives. Well, they did at the time. Again, that might be an obsolete thing. Santa suit, I don't know. I mean, this is the great thing about Library of Things is you use it once and you don't have to use it again. So why buy it? It's just try before you buy, or, things you might not use a lot. And really briefly, I just came across some good quotes of why we do what we do. It is another, Katie Allen from Orland Park Public Library. It is another way in which libraries are for everyone and everything. A librarian, Kendra Lake, had said that it's a great way to promote their personal exploration and discovery, well-being, creativity, and self-growth. And I'm definitely behind that. I think we all are. And of course, we want to inspire a new generation as we see Generation Z coming into our libraries with technology that are, at least I, as a middle-aged person, is kind of like really trying to wrap my head around. So trying to keep on top of things, trying to keep our finger to the pulse of what's going on. So I'm going to end right there. And does anybody have any questions, comments? Feel free to put them in the chat, or you could get on the mic, I suppose, and let us know. Thanks.
I have a question, if you don't
Hi,
mind me.
Gretchen. Yes, go right ahead.
So we just got a huge donation of games from Rio Grande Games. They sent me like $1,000 worth of games. And we have 3 to 4 of each game, so we can split them between our campuses too. We're contemplating saving one game back for pieces and circulate them for the day, because we figure if they go out home, they're less likely to come back intact. And we're also thinking of not counting things because there's so many pieces, especially like the Dominion big box set. There's like hundreds of cards in there. So I wanted to know what people do with their games and how they circulate them, and if they do piece counts, like do they actually count them when they circulate them? Do you like the idea of one day only so that they stay within the building? I want to ask other people how they're doing it before I catalog these.
Yeah, personally, I mean, we don't, like I mentioned, the only time we had games, we just kind of didn't catalog them, and we left them alone. We didn't let other people, we let people just work on the honor system. But is anybody out there? Does anybody circulate games that could answer Gretchen's question? Or maybe I should say, what would you do if you were in Gretchen's position?
So we did, excuse me, some point in the last year we got, I don't quite understand, it's like expansion sets and instruction books for D&D. And those were cataloged, I think, just because there was a limited, there wasn't a ton of things. So I think it makes sense if it's a manageable amount of stuff to catalog it, especially if it's going to go home with people. However, you mentioned games that literally have hundreds of hearts. I don't think that's realistic. I really like your idea, though, Gretchen, of having a spare set somewhere that you can cannibalize for parts. I think that's a really smart thing to do, because some games you can play when parts are missing, and others, I remember Mousetrap from when I was a little kid, and if you lose one part of it, that's it.
Cool. I'm on the right track. I've been brainstorming with all my employees. They're like, oh, it really shouldn't go home. Everyone's agreeing on that. They're like, just keep it for like one day, like we do our phone chargers and laptop chargers and things like that, so they can be in the building but not go home, and then we're less likely to lose parts. So it was exciting. What was that?
As I alluded to, yeah, I think that for us, it's like the more complicated things get, I mean, we want to keep them in, in the library, but of course our digital cameras do go out, and those can get complicated. In fact, I start sweating bullets when I see somebody want to use them, because I'm like, I have to make sure everything is accounted for and they're in good working condition, and then they all come back, and I'm counting to make sure everything is there. They're waiting to check out, and so yeah, that's what we do here. We kind of like, if it's complicated, we kind of tend to keep it in house.
Yeah, we do have some work. We have some kits we have to count for different labs. We have a rock kit for the earth science lab and a physics kit for the physics lab. But what they did, I've been worked with them to make it so we could circulate those. I worked with them to make a list of the items that are in the kit for me with prices attached to each and how much it is for the whole kit. And then we put for the replacement cost in the record, the full kit amount. And then we just forgive the amount of fines for what's left that's missing if they like return the kit with pieces missing, so that they are charged, because you mentioned fines a little bit. So that's how we handle like the piece count. Like if you're missing this piece, it's this much. So we subtract everything but that price, and then you have to return that piece or you have to pay that price. And that's how we handle that kind of thing. And then they have a form they have to sign that they got all the pieces.
Right.
So.
Anybody else want to chime in? I see somebody said headphones. I just wanted to say really quick that we have earbuds that we give out, and they're small. We don't circulate them. We just give them out and people can keep them. But at the same time, we get some students who, I don't know, they come, I don't know if they think they're disposable, but they come back to us over and over again asking for these, and then all of a sudden we have an empty supply. And I don't know, sometimes people abuse the privilege when we do things for free. So I think we're not keeping as many earbuds as we used to, because people just keep asking for them, and then I don't know what they do with them. They throw them away. Maybe it's a moment for educational moment. We
have the big can headphones. We got them from our audio to visual department. They just gave us some extras they had, and we put barcodes on them, and we actually checked them out for the day, and then we wiped them down with Clorox wipes when they're returned for the next person, so that they're sanitary.
That's what we did at Erickson when I was there. We had, the big ones that are, not easily left in a purse or a backpack. And then when we have money at Prairie State, we have like little El Cheapo earbuds that, they're not great, but if students need them, we just give them away for free. I think we're out of those. And then we also have, the little soft earplugs as well, that we give both of those away. But again, it's kind of the thing we have to have money to buy them.
Another thing is we do check out the chargers too. What we did is we used zip ties to attach a barcode to the cord. If you guys need to know how to attach something to something, they work really well. You just you laminate, like use cold laminate on a piece of paper with the barcode stuck on it, hole punch it, and then zip tie it to the cord, and that way you can check them out easily.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
We live dangerously with our chargers, which means we don't often have all of them.
Yeah, it works really well. That was my workaround to find, because I was like, how do I attach a barcode to this? I was like, so I literally just took the barcode, put it on a piece of paper, put the cold laminate on each side, clipped it close, and then hole punched it, and then attached it, and it works fabulous. So highly recommend that for if you want to circulate cords and get them back. And then you can charge them if they don't, they're like $15 or less usually to replace them, and they can pay for the replacement.
Thomas, I'm going to jump in and take a quick moment just to point out that earlier in the chat area, you'll see that Valerie shared her slide deck, and I've also inserted a survey from the PDC that if you have a moment this morning or later on, if you can grab that and provide us a little bit of feedback on today's webinar, it would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Andy. I hope everybody gets a chance to fill out the survey.
And thank you everybody for coming and hearing us talk, and really glad to see you guys.
Thomas,
Thanks,
this is Lisa Triton really quick. I just wanted to comment. I don't know if you saw there that we do keep their IDs until they return them with the headphones.
Oh, yes, I see it now. Okay, I see it in the chat. Yeah, right. And you know, we used to do something similar with headphones back in the day, and then, you know, with COVID, we went away from that because we're like, oh, you know, people are not going to want to. It was, you know, spread germs, and we had to clean it and all that. And then we're like, well, we'll just get these small things to give out, but then, you know, people find out about it and they abuse it. So maybe we'll go back to our headphones. You know, just hand it out to them. Give those little white, what do you call it? Like soft pack, you know, things that keep, you know, you could remove, you know, when you give it to them, they put it on there to keep things clean. They bring it back, you remove it, put new ones on. So, you know, we might do that.
Yeah, I like the idea of essentially using some of these items like a reserve, and, you know, having a limited time checkout for use in the library, but cataloging it. And then you can track the stats.
Yeah, they really just use them in the library. So
Right now we're in a temporary space, and so we have very little power. And so they circulate for the day, and then they take them to the cafeteria or somewhere else because they need an outlet for their computers. And we have like one outlet for the public right now.
Right.
It's insane.
So is everybody huddled around it?
Well, it's the favorite place to sit. Like it first we open the doors. That's the first table taken because there's
Sure.
an outlet right there.
Yep.
And it's always occupied. I know there's going to be someone there like 9 times out of 10 when I walk past it. So remodeling is fun.
When do you get to move back in?
I think January, like over the winter break.
Okay.
So we just moved in January, like December to January, and we're moving back December to January probably.
So basically a year in the temporary space. Oof.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what kind of budget you have. I was not in charge of the buying of this. I was merely along for the ride. When we got new furniture, they got little, it's like a roll, it's a stand with plugs, and you do have to plug it into a plug, but then there's maybe like, I don't know how many plugs are in there, maybe 16. And we put those around our library because our space, you know, it was designed long before people had laptops.
We are limited in the wing we're in is very limited in wiring as far as
so you
well,
support
actually
that.
we've lost power a couple times already when the construction began, which isn't far away, so they had to reroute some power again. And they're like, our print station for releasing print jobs is like way far away from the printer because it couldn't fit on the same circuit,
Or it would,
yeah
blow the screen.
it's really nerve-wracking.
Sounds like. Any other questions from me? Anybody else?
I just want to point out, I put my email in the chat if anyone has questions about fines, because we do we have the overdue notices go to a shared email box so that we can double check to make sure replacement fees are in the record before they go to loss status. And I highly recommend that if you don't automatically, because we don't backtrack and put prices and everything, and we didn't have them in all of them before. So that's a way we track it. And then, like I said before, you can forgive the amount that they return and then just keep the price for the things that are left. And if you have questions about how I do that, you can email me. My email's in the chat.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you very much. Anything else? All right. Well, I don't see anything else in the chat, or nobody's raising their hands, so I guess we can go ahead and conclude.
And I'll put my email in the chat, but yeah, I'm happy to
Oh,
answer
yeah.
questions, share ideas.
Oh, yeah, I'm putting mine in too, in case somebody wants to reach out. All right. Andy, is there anything else? I don't know if you wanted to mention the next presentation from the PDC, I think next month.
Yeah, actually, thank you so much for mentioning that, because I just realized as we were getting ready to end this one that, oh my gosh, we do have a third one coming up at the last minute. We have two of our own PDC committee members who stepped up to offer a session in May, which of course I don't have my calendar pulled up. Where is it? Oh my gosh. Well, darn it. Now I have to jump over to my Google account. My apologies. Got way
That's
too many
okay.
accounts floating around.
I believe it
Do
was
you have the date?
Wednesday, May 7th at 10 a.m.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So we're going to do a collection inventory session. I'm sure that as we're approaching summer, more than one Nil Rock member library has a project upcoming, and both Amy Pinson and Brian Clark at their respective institutions have undergone or are undergoing some collection inventory projects. And we want to discuss like how they've approached that, the pitfalls, the perils, and so on and so forth. So yeah, once again, 10 a.m. on May 7th. We'll be sending out some reminders through the listserv, but we'd love to see you there. And if you have experience in that area, please come and share your own experiences. It would be greatly appreciated. But yeah, that's all I've got. Thank you for that reminder, Thomas.
Oh, no problem.
All right. Well, and thank you both for presenting today. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. That was a lot of fun. And it's interesting to see what everybody else has got kicking around their library and how we're sharing and doing things. And it dawned on me when I shared my, our laptops, our graphing calculators, and so on. It's like, oh yeah, we do coloring sheets. Oh yeah, we do, we do puzzles, all that. It's those things that are easy to forget, but they're so relevant to our students because they're always sitting over there coloring or putting the puzzle together. So once again, thank you to you both. And thank you to everyone who came and has stuck it out here to the very end. We'll hopefully see you all next month.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Have a good day, everybody.